I stood at the altar, feeling the weight of my grandmother's lace train pooling around my feet. The string quartet had played Pachelbel's canon for the third time. The 60-year-old florist was subtly checking her watch. My entire life, I had dreamed of this moment. My dress, my vows, the man standing opposite me. Except the man wasn't there. At 3:17 p.m., on the most important day of my life, my maid of honor held up a crumpled note. It contained 3 words. I can't. I didn't just lose a fiancé that day. I lost my dignity. I lost the future I had spent 5 years planning. I was humiliated in front of 200 people. I felt the earth tilt on its axis. But here's the thing about public humiliation. It can either destroy you or it can forge you. I chose to forge. I didn't just walk away from that tragedy. I took the dress, the flowers, the catering, and the entire luxurious venue, and I transformed it into something beautiful. I didn't lose a wedding. I gained a world's respect. And in the process, I made my runaway groom famous for all the wrong reasons. Hello, everyone. I'm Lily. I live in upstate New York, and if you'd asked me 6 years ago what I did for a living, I would have told you I was a marketing manager counting down the days until my life truly began. But today, I'll tell you I'm a founder and a storyteller. This is a story about betrayal, heartbreak, and the astonishing power of choosing grace over anger. It's about being handed the worst tragedy you can imagine and saying, fine, I'm taking this tragedy and turning it into something beautiful. If you have ever been left, discarded, or betrayed, and struggled to find the motivation to keep going, this story is for you. If you've ever craved a justice that wasn't petty, but profound, then you're in the right place. So, let's begin. If you believe that the best revenge is living well and doing good, hit that like button, subscribe, and prepare yourself for the most heartbreakingly satisfying story you'll hear today. The wedding was scheduled for September 14th at a place called the Arbor Creek Estate. It was a historical stone mansion, all ivy and elegant wrought iron. It cost a fortune. Every detail was meticulously planned, from the white garden roses to the vintage champagne tower. My fiancé, Alex, was a finance guy, ambitious, handsome, and usually very controlled. He was the kind of man who planned our date nights 6 weeks in advance. That control, I realized later, was the first red flag I chose to ignore. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Alex was distant. He'd snap at me over minor details. The font on the invitations, the seating chart. I attributed it to stress, wedding jitters. Everyone said it was normal. I look back at those final days, and I hear the frantic, silent warnings I pushed down. The day before the wedding, we were supposed to meet for a rehearsal dinner. Alex was an hour late. He apologized stiffly, claiming a work emergency. He wouldn't look me in the eye. I felt a cold knot of dread tighten in my stomach, but the energy of the wedding planning, the bridesmaids, the caterers, the excited parents pushed the dread aside. It had to be fine. It was too late not to be. The morning of the wedding, September 14th, started perfectly. The air was crisp, smelling of dew and cut flowers. My dress, a dream of satin and lace, felt like armor. My hair and makeup artist, Emma, kept telling me I looked radiant. But I couldn't eat. I could only manage sips of lukewarm coffee. Around 2 p.m., my father came into the bridal suite. His smile was too wide. His eyes were too panicked. Lily, sweetheart, everything is running perfectly. Just a minor delay with Alex's car, nothing to worry about. A minor delay, 20 minutes, then 30. The string quartet, hired for a precisely timed performance, began their free-form repertoire. My maid of honor, Clara, kept running out to call Alex's phone, only to return with a tight, reassuring smile that didn't fool anyone. 3 p.m. The guests were restless. The murmur in the hall was no longer excitement. It was confusion. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of the bridal suite, staring out at the aisle lined with roses. The sun was perfect. The scene was perfect. Only the groom was missing. I felt a terrifying, hollow calm settle over me. I told Clara, "Call him one more time. Call his parents. Tell them if he's not here in 20 minutes, I'm going out there without him." At 3:15 p.m., Clara came back. Her face was white. She didn't have to say anything. She just handed me the note. It was written on a piece of paper ripped from a notebook, crumpled, and folded carelessly. It had been left at the reception desk. "I can't. I'm sorry. Alex." I read the words 3 times. The world outside the window, the perfect roses, the blue sky, seemed to warp and distort. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a public execution of my hope. I didn't scream. I didn't faint. I just stood there, the expensive lace scratching my skin, and felt the absolute silence inside my own head. My father rushed over, pulling me into a hug, his tears soaking into my veil. "He's gone, honey. He's gone." But that silence didn't last. Soon, the fury came. Not the red-hot, screaming anger, but a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was disrespected. Publicly. He had wasted every penny, every second, and every ounce of my love to save himself a tough conversation. The real conflict began immediately. My parents wanted me to hide, to sneak me out the back and send everyone home with a muted apology. But I looked at my reflection in the glass. The flawless makeup, the radiant dress, all of it a lie. I looked at Clara, my best friend, whose eyes were swollen red. "Clara, I need you to do something for me. I need you to get the microphone." "Lily, no. We're going to get you out of here." "No," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I paid for this party. I paid for this dress. I paid for this disaster. I am not sneaking out of my own life." I walked out of the bridal suite, past the terrified wedding coordinator, and walked to the double doors of the hall. My dad tried to stop me. "Lily, you don't have to." "Yes, Dad, I do." The moment the doors opened, the confusion in the hall stopped. 200 faces turned to me. They saw the tear tracks on my cheeks, the dress, and the utter lack of a groom. I walked to the altar, alone. The silence was so profound, I could hear my own heart hammering. I took the microphone. My hand trembled, but I gripped it tighter. "Hello, everyone," I said, my voice cracking once, but then finding its strength. "Thank you all for being here. You might notice that we have a bit of a scheduling problem. Alex has—" I paused, trying to find the dignified word. "Decided he couldn't make it." A collective gasp went through the crowd. I heard a muffled cry from my mother. I forced a tiny, defiant smile. "But here's what I want you all to know. We have a beautiful venue. We have a 7-course dinner planned. We have an open bar and a world-class DJ ready to play until 2 a.m. I looked out at their shocked faces. Alex may have abandoned this wedding, but I will not abandon this party. We are going to celebrate. We are going to celebrate our friends, our family, and the fact that I just dodged a massive self-centered bullet. The crowd erupted. It was a mix of shocked cheers and relieved laughter. But the night wasn't just about drinking away the pain. The next morning, the reality of the cost hit me. The venue fee, the catering deposit, the flowers. I was financially ruined and emotionally shattered. The sting of betrayal was still a knife in my chest. I sat on my couch, wearing a borrowed t-shirt, staring at a giant contract from the Arbor Creek estate. We had paid for the venue for the entire weekend. Clara came over, armed with coffee and blankets. She showed me her phone. The story was everywhere. A terrible phone photo of me standing alone at the altar had gone viral. The headline was "Runaway Groom Bails, Bride Parties On." The comments were a strange mix of pity and praise. My face was everywhere. Alex, meanwhile, was being skewered. His face, his profession, his note, all meme fodder. Justice was being served by the internet, but that didn't pay the bills. Then I had the idea. The venue, I whispered to Clara. We still have the venue for Saturday and Sunday. We paid for it. The food, the flowers, it's all here. We can't cancel the contracts for the kitchen staff. Clara looked at me, confused. What are you saying? I'm saying we turn this disaster into a fundraiser, a huge one. We spent the next 48 hours in a frantic, exhausting frenzy. We leveraged the viral story. Clara called every local news station. I called the caterer and the baker, explaining the situation and begging them to donate the food costs to charity. They agreed instantly, moved by the story. We rebranded the wedding venue for the weekend. We called it the Uncorked Heart Gala. We decided the proceeds would go to a local women's shelter. The pitch was simple. Come party at the most beautiful, most expensive venue in the state. Celebrate Lily's liberation. Pay $50 at the door. Open bar, great food, world-class DJ. All for charity. The publicity was instant and overwhelming. Every local station ran the story. People who had followed the runaway groom meme wanted to be part of the happy ending. On Saturday night, exactly 1 week after I was supposed to be married, I stood outside the Arbor Creek estate. The line of people stretched down the drive and on to the main road. We had to cap attendance at 500. I didn't wear the wedding dress. I wore a simple, elegant black cocktail dress. I felt like a warrior. I stood by the entrance, greeting every guest, telling them thank you. The energy was electric. It was pure, unadulterated joy. It wasn't pity. It was support/P. At midnight, I took the stage where I was supposed to take my vows. The DJ lowered the music. I looked out at the hundreds of faces, dancing, laughing, celebrating life. I announced the total raised, over $40,000 in one night for the women's shelter. I held the mic. I felt my voice catch, but this time with profound gratitude. Alex sent me a note saying he couldn't. I said, couldn't stand up here and face the commitment. But look around. Tonight, all of you could. You showed up for compassion, for kindness, and for community. The payoff was not just the money. It was the feeling of power. The feeling that something meant to destroy me had instead made me stronger, wealthier in spirit, and more deeply connected to the world than Alex ever could have made me. I later found out Alex was hiding out at a friend's ski cabin, furious that his face and name were a national punchline. He was ruined in his small, controlled world of finance. His humiliation was complete. My final act of triumph was simple. I used the residual publicity and my own skills to launch a successful event planning and charity consulting business. I called it the Uncorked Heart Events. My first official booking, the Arbor Creek Estate, who offered me a lifetime discount. The ultimate moment of justice wasn't the gala itself, but the quiet confirmation that my life was better without him. 1 year later, I was back at the Arbor Creek Estate, managing a corporate retreat. I was standing in the foyer on a phone call with the women's shelter director, discussing how my company was now consulting for their annual gala. I was happy, successful, and completely free. Suddenly, a man walked past me. He looked pale, haggard, and several years older than his age. He was alone. It was Alex. He was there for a job interview, a small, mid-level position with the company hosting the retreat. He spotted me, successful and confident, taking charge of the venue that was supposed to be his. His face drained of color. He looked like he was going to vomit. He knew I was the reason he was forced to take a low-level job after his career was stalled by the viral shame. I looked at him, not with hatred, but with a profound sense of distance. He was a ghost of a tragedy long past. I finished my phone call, gave him a small, polite nod, the kind of nod you give a stranger, and walked away to greet my clients. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. The look of fear and regret in his eyes, knowing I was the ultimate proof of his mistake, was the sweetest revenge of all. When you are betrayed, it's natural to want to punish the person who hurt you. But true justice isn't about their pain. It's about your transformation. I didn't seek to destroy Alex's career. He did that himself. I sought to save myself from the humiliation he imposed, and in the process, I found a purpose I never knew I had. I learned that the most profound act of self-love is transforming your deepest pain into the source of your greatest good. The world took my tragedy and gave me respect. It was a beautiful, unexpected exchange. If you are hurting right now, please know that the money, the time, and the emotional energy that was invested in that betrayal can be salvaged. Take that mess, take that pain, and turn it into something beautiful. If this story gave you chills, or if you believe in the power of choosing grace over grief, smash that like button. And I want to know in the comments, what is the most beautiful thing that has ever come from the painful ending in your life? Let us celebrate your triumphs together. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, be brave, be brilliant, and remember, an uncorked heart can't be contained.